Hey, good afternoon. This is Joe Sonona coming to you live with Sonona Speaks Seminars. And my guest this week is Lawrence LJ Papaleo from Gilbo Realty in Syracuse, New York. How are you doing, LJ?
How's it going, Joe? How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Coffee Talk with the listing pros in real estate. And my first question is, how did you get started in real estate? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in my fourth year. I got started because I was in a sales position at UPS and looking to move back home to Syracuse. And I had a few family friends who were in real estate and said, "Hey, you do really well in it. Why don't you give it a shot?" So I dove straight into the deep end with no other job and just real estate, and it's either sink or swim. And I was able to survive for my fourth year in the game. So that's how I got started.
Awesome, awesome. And since this is a listing shows, I come right out and I fire away with the first question, and that is, what is your secret sauce to listing real estate?
Sure. My secret sauce. Normally I don't share my secret sauce, but that's since we're in a conversation about it.
This is
My
coffee talk.
you know that's right. I assure my clients that I'm going to take an active approach to selling their house. So too many times clients have previously sold their house, they haven't heard from their realtor, or they put their house on the market, a sign in the front, and nothing else. So my approach is more of, what else I'm going to do other than that. And my clients seem to really like it. And I take them through step by step what I do differently and what I'm going to actively be doing. And I ask about what they're looking for in a listing agent. And I tell them how I can be like that. And we go from there.
That's awesome. And do they so readily list with you or want to list with you, or are you always find yourself competing with other agents in the business for that one particular listing?
There's a lot of competition in my market. It isn't just like, hey, we love you right away. We're going to use you. I wish it was like that, but
Do they say they love you though?
I can just tell in their
Do
eyes,
you
Joe.
actually
I can
get
tell they
people to
love
say
me.
you love that they love you?
Hey, well, after everything's said and done, I'm pretty much family at that point in their mind. But
That's
during the
cool. That's
process,
cool.
it's not really like that. Um, so yeah,
That's it. That's all you're gonna say.
well,
You elaborate. Hey,
I mean, I
listen.
answered the question about the family part. Is it
Everything
about the
goes
love
on this
part?
program. Everything goes.
There you go.
I find
Goodbye.
that the more natural we are, the more viewership we're gonna have with this. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
A lot of agents ask me, a lot of new agents ask me, how does one get started when they come right out of the gate? They pass the test, and obviously it wasn't always so easy for you to list a home. So, can you give or elaborate on what you would advise a new agent to do coming out of the gate in wanting to be that lister?
Sure. I would, raw advice is I'd want you to be confident and competent enough to be a listing agent. So if you right away get your license and start listing properties, but you don't know how to answer the important questions for your clients, you're doing a disservice. So make sure you have that confidence from within that you could handle a listing, and go from there. I started off really, as much as I wanted to do both listings and buyer agent, I realistically was a buyer's agent my first couple of years, and I maybe had a couple listings. But that's really taken off once I've really understood the makings of a house, how it works, questions that a seller has. So I'd say don't go after listings if you're not confident enough to take them. And it's not one of those fake it until you make it. It's one of those you really need to provide a good service to a seller. So when you're ready to do that, take it on. But if you're not ready, I would say don't do it.
That's good advice. That's good. And what kind of advice would you give to an old timer like me in the business? If you had to talk to someone who's got, you know, 15, 20 years, and no smart aleck remarks. Just give
I was
me
gonna
an
say an
answer.
old timer. We're talking really old if we're talking about you, Joe.
Well, I've been in the business 30 years. So a lot
Okay.
of
Well,
people, a lot of
I'm 30 years
younger
old,
agents.
Joe.
What? I'm
I,
sorry?
I said I'm 30 years old, Joe.
Now, see, that's a wise ass remark because 30 years ago you were born. I
Yeah.
know. But,
Yep.
just so that everybody knows in full disclosure who's viewing this program, LJ and I are very good friends. So I knew that I was going to have this type of interview with him. So
Wouldn't have it any other way.
let me get past the next question. How many years an agent has in the business matters, especially when someone like yourself who has very little years, but in your short time you've seen the I hate to use the word seasoned. I feel like a chicken sometimes, but when you see someone who has experience like me, what advice, looking at us in the business that we have been there that older in the business, what advice do you see for us or give to us?
I'd say play your strengths. Every agent has their own strengths, and play your own cards right. If the seasoned vet thing works for you, where you can throw your weight around and say, "Hey, I've been working for 30 years, and you're going to be safe with me," and that's a very good card to have. Play it. If you've got humor and that works for you, play it. If you're the serious type and you're dealing with the type of client who needs straightforward answers and no BS, just tell me as it is, and I don't want to hear from you unless we have an offer. You know, then do that. It's all about what your strengths are, and I'd have to know the agent in particular for me to tell them what they can do to improve their game. For me, I'm a younger guy, trying to tell a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old what they should be doing with their house when they've possibly owned their house longer than I've been out of school. I have to play to my strength, and that's charm, and that's a workaholic work rate, and for an old timer, quote unquote, you would play your cards differently. So
That's cool. That's cool. And I know that that was a difficult question because you don't want to seem like you're coming off as insulting, but you're not, because like me giving advice to a younger agent in the business with, a few years of experience or 1 year experience or 5 years experience, I would just tell them to, just be open minded to new things. And I even have to tell my colleagues, who have been in the business, as long as I have been, just be open minded to new things. It's very hard, to accept new technologies. And as you get older, you learn new technologies, and it's hard to even learn them and to adapt to them when you're so used to doing some other things. Like, remember when I told you that story about, throwing my book or burning my daily diary. I used to buy these diaries at Staples, and I burned mine just to get a Gmail calendar. Now I'll never go back to a diary ever again. So it's just like, fitting into a template, so to speak, and being comfortable into that template. But listings is different because, every year technology changes. What technology do you use to market your listings?
well, a common question I get is, will my house be on Zillow? Right. So if you're going to list a house on the MLS, I would highly advise giving them the permission to have it go to Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, etc., Homes.com, sites like that. So,
And
and I
why is
use
that?
those because no matter what, if you sign them up for the MLS auto email campaign, they're looking on Zillow. When they find a house, they're sending you a Zillow link. So, a lot of times we say, oh, but we're opening up to the market when we're talking about for sale by owners. Like, you should list your house with an agent because we're opening it up to all the agents who have buyers. Well, in realistic, measures or terms, those buyers are looking on Zillow. And it may work, that argument, but realistically, I think we sold our souls to the devil there. It's just an easier website to use. Their app's easier to use. So as much as I like to set up my buyers on an auto emailer, whenever they find a house, it's realistically a Zillow or Realtor.com link that
Yeah.
they're sending to me. So,
And a lot of people I know, we're part two, we're realtors, but we belong to two different associations, but both of our associations, sell the data to Zillow.
right,
One thing I find wrong about Zillow is that they have 2 years worth of distorted data. So for a homeowner to list their property and take the data from Zillow, I think that's doing themselves an injustice, isn't it? Because we get real time comparable sales in real time, and then you have Zillow, who's got 2 years worth of distorted data that
right,
takes that value, right?
right. I do have to talk to my clients a lot about, okay, well, I checked the data on my MLS and here's what I'm seeing. So when they pull comps, they're not necessarily looking at the most accurate information.
Yeah. And buyers flock to the Zillow, and they give us that MLS number, and that's good. I think I find buying more of an advantage using the Zillow app than sellers who use the Zillow app just to get the analysis. When you sit down with them, do you tell them that you're going to use any other technology, like for specialized photography, drone,
Sure.
or a Matterport?
Right. I've thought about getting into the Matterport thing, and that really started to take off more during this COVID-19 situation that we're, even currently in. However, what I see working a lot for me is the text for more information on the sign. It captures their information, anyone who's interested, because a lot of times buyers, before they want to contact an agent or anything, they want to drive by the property. And if the sign says, text for more information, we can capture their information and then track back with them and say, hey, you asked for more information on this property. I want to know if you're interested. So my sellers tend to like that. We do use professional photos. I think that's a must. If you're going to collect thousands of dollars from your seller, you need to market the property well. You can't use your cell phone. I hate to say, as the cell phone photography is getting better, but still, you want to advertise it well, and a professional photographer will do that for you. I haven't
And
toyed
how
around with
many?
staging. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Staging.
I was just going to say, I haven't toyed around with staging yet. It's been on the back of my mind, so I may try that and partner up with a local stager. Um, but yeah, I mean, in this market that we're currently in, at least in central New York, there's half the amount of inventory on the market this year as there was last year at this time. So, if you market property well, it's going to sell. Yeah.
How many open houses do you think it would take? Like, let's say, do you have like a set a number of open houses you're going to do for a piece of property, or you just play it by ear?
Yeah. Open houses, I'll do it. I'll do as many as I need to sell. And I know your mentality on it as it only takes one. For me, I also use it to find buyers. So, a lot of agents will, you know, ask the seller what they think the house will sell for, and then they list it at that price and then take advantage of the buyers that come in. I don't necessarily do that. I tell them what I think it's worth. But if they still at the end of the day want to price it higher, I say, okay, we'll go with your price for now. But if we don't get any offers, you need to be a little bit more reasonable. And I say that in a nicer way. But I take advantage and I do open houses and I get buyers, and I do far better in person interacting with clients than on the phone. Some people are really good on the phone. For me, it does not how the cookie crumbles. So yeah, I'll do as many as I need to because it just builds up my business.
What do you think the most challenging part of listing a property is?
Great question. Great question. You got me there.
You have an answer? I got you stumped, didn't
You know,
I?
uh,
You
Setting
know what it is?
expectations.
I've changed my questions, especially for you.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't want to make it easy for me.
This
I'd
is
say
the
setting
inaugural. This is
expectations.
the inaugural question.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think is the hardest part about when you list a property? What do you think is the most challenging uh, thing that you have to overcome in not just finding a buyer, but like for some people, they say marketing it and finding the right marketing tool that works, whether it's Zillow, whether it's Facebook, any type of technology. But what's the most challenging for you, especially in your business? Because everybody's different. Everybody has a different opinion.
Sure. For me personally, I wouldn't say just overall, but just me personally, it's the age difference with sellers. There are not a lot of 30-year-olds selling their homes. They're usually just buying their first home at that point, or they're settled in for a little while. So I'm speaking to people in a different generation, and they're looking at me and they're like, okay, what is this kid, even though I'm 30, what can this kid do for me that the guy with 25 years can't do? And why should we use him when, oh, wow, that guy's been in the industry for 25 years. He must be reliable. So that's probably the biggest hurdle for me. Um, I would say also setting expectations with sellers. So they live in their house for 10 years, 15 years, sometimes, like their whole life. And they think their house is worth, $500,000 and it's not. But you don't want to tell them that their baby's ugly, right? So you got to tiptoe around. Okay, well, let's look at these comps. There's a lot of similarities. Here's what they're priced for. You also can't be a step over. So yeah, I would say that's a difficult one too, is setting expectations with your seller.
Did you ever sell a house, like you just said, talking about their home being ugly, their baby being ugly? I like that one.
Yeah.
But did you ever tell a seller to clean up their house? Or,
I
like if you
do. I
walked in
do.
and
A
it
lot
was
of times
like,
they don't listen,
hmm
and then it shows in the days on market. All I can do is, you enlisted my expertise and I'm telling you, but if you don't want to listen, then what can I do? So I go into the doctor. If they stay off your foot because your foot's broken and you're jumping on it and making it worse, you can't blame the doctor for it. So
and how many homes have you sold, that you could have gotten more money for that client of yours, but because they didn't follow your advice and set the house up nice and clean it at least, how much less did you sell it for?
I would realistically say there's two that really stick out, and they could have got themselves another 20 or 25,000, I think, from just a deep clean.
Hmm.
And they just had enough. They were older in age, and they said, "This is the way it's going to be. It doesn't matter." And money wasn't even that important to them. They just said, "I'm done. Sell it. Get it off my hands."
Yeah. I had
So,
one like that 2 years ago where the owner moved out, but the owner used every room as his own personal bathroom. And I got to tell you
huh?
how gross that was. Yeah, I got to tell you how
So,
gross that was when I walked in. I didn't even know what I didn't even know what to do at that point. And I just had them remove carpeting. I had them remove some furniture. I had a dumpster out. I mean, it was a gross house. And then when I brought the cleaning lady in, I looked her up. This is how I found my current vendor. And I opened up the Google, and I just said cleaning ladies, or actually my assistant at the time, he Googled it, because I said, how did you find this cleaning lady? She's a miracle worker. She cleaned the entire house. The grossness went away. The smell went away. Everything went away. And I was still able to have a bidding war just
mhm.
by that one simple act of cleaning the house.
Yeah,
But it was gross. It was really gross when I walked in.
yeah. I've heard from other agents, "Pretty goes to the prom," and I like that saying, and I use it from time and time
I like
again.
that.
You know, uh, that's pretty goes the prom. So if you want to sell your house, it's got to be as presentable as possible. But if you don't want to make it presentable, you're going to be the ugly kid who doesn't get picked to the prom. Yeah.
Well, the well, the one that stands on the sidelines and can't dance. or
Yeah.
it hasn't been asked to dance yet,
Right.
right?
Right. And
Um,
every kid deserves to go to the prom, but
that's true.
you want to be desired, you know?
That's true. We'll put a nice corsage or a nice flower boutonniere on that
That's
person.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
but that's our jobs. Our jobs are to consult with the homeowner when we list a home, and if they're not willing to take our advice, then they can't get the price that they want, right?
Right.
So this is a teaching show. We teach a lot of our agents uh, things about listings, techniques, technology. We teach the newbies coming out of real estate school, the old bees, how to do what the newbies are doing. But more importantly, we center the show around law of agency. So I'm asking you today, Lawrence LJ Papaleo, if
Hmm.
you had to choose between old car, one of the traits of old car, obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care, which one would you choose? I know they're all important, but which one is your favorite and why?
For me, from a personal standpoint, it's loyalty. I think that's what you said, right? You said loyalty was one of
Yes,
them.
yes, yes.
That just stems from my personal life. I like my friends and family loyal, and I'm loyal. That's one of my strongest attributes. So from a personal standpoint, it's loyalty. If you're gonna work in the best interest of your client, you better. They're not. You're not going to be making money off a transaction and not take care of your client. At least if you work with me, so that's the most important in my book is being loyal to the people you said and you pledged to be loyal to.
Have you ever had anybody be disloyal to you?
Uh, I mean, that's a good question.
Not. I'm sorry.
I
Not in
don't.
your
I
personal life.
mean,
I'm talking about your business life.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, friends and family. Yeah,
I had to
sometimes.
preface
But
that. I had to right. I had to
you
make
did.
sure that I
You
got that one
did.
right.
I also can't. I can't hold people to my standards of loyalty. Is what I've learned as well. As I've matured with time, I realized that for some people that's not as important. I've had clients challenge me on why their house isn't selling, and I'd have to remind them we did an exercise at the listing appointment. We could have sold it quicker, but you would have had to lower your price. You wanted a higher price. I told you that it would take a little bit longer to sell. But they would say, well, this agent has a sign in front of their house that said it sold in 2 days. Well, they probably could have captured more money if they listed it for a higher price, and if they were willing to sell after a month or 2 months. So every seller has their own motivations.
And it always baffles me, about loyalty because I try to set the expectations on a listing presentation, and I always say, listen, we're going to work as a team here. And I need you to get that because I'm working for you. I don't expect you to work for me, but I need you to cooperate with me. I need you to basically give me control of the school bus. I'm driving this bus, and it doesn't work if both of our hands are on the steering wheel. So I always say, listen, sit in the back like a good passenger. I will make sure that I give you updates and accountability. But if you try to take control of this school bus, we will never get to our destination.
I
And
like
and
that.
I always try to right. I always try to use metaphors in my presentation and everything. But I find loyalty is a very, very big challenge in our industry in our
Absolutely.
listings, right?
Absolutely. I would say more so even on the buyer side. And that just opens up another can of worms. But
Yeah.
yeah, loyalty in real estate, some would say it's dead, but not by the way that you and I do
No,
business.
no. I think if you set expectations ahead of time, and you make sure that you communicate properly and effectively, I think that loyalty will come back to you, and it will make sure that uh, sellers will remember that. Sellers will remember everything you tell them. Uh, but I find that with presentations, with listing presentations, sellers tend to forget some things you tell them as if you've never spoken about it. And I've seen agents have written in their contracts, discussions, dialogues. This is what I told you. This is the price today, and they put a date, and then they have the seller sign it, and they give them a copy of it, and they go, on such and such a date, I told you you might expect to get between this amount and that amount, right? And I've seen that in writing lately because sellers forget the price, or maybe they're not willing to forget the price because maybe somewhere along the lines, like you just said, they want more money, or they see their neighbor, Mr. Smith, getting more money for his 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, whatever.
Right.
And they feel, hey, I got got a Sistine Chapel of Michelangelo painted on my ceiling. My house is worth more, Mr. Jones always watches Mr. Smith, and Mr. Smith always watches Mr. Jones, right?
Right.
But where's where do we begin here? Where do we begin to show our sellers in listings that this is really what your home is worth, and this is what you can get at this point in time? And that's the challenge of our times. Tell me, just as the last question, post-quarantine, COVID-19 measures, are you taking, I know you're taking extra precaution, but what are you doing? Are you doing anything different than what everybody else is doing?
Nope, just doing whatever the CDC says we should do. So I just do it by the book.
Yeah. I have these safety kits, and my seller's got bottles of Purell. We have indemnification agreements, release agreements. I think there's more paperwork now than ever before.
Oh yeah. Yep. I agree.
Right? Well, listen, I want to wish you good luck in your career. You got a great career ahead of you, and you're not only a realtor in the business, but you're one of my good friends. So this was a very funny, okay, let's play it by the book and play it by ear interview.
Yeah.
I really want to thank you for making my day today with a lot of humor.
My pleasure, Joe. I tried to be normal for you for as long as I could.
Yes, you did.
I feel like I'm doing very well.
I'm watching the clock before we end this, so this way there's an expiration date on your seriousness right now. But
There is.
I just want to thank you again for being on Coffee Talk, for being who you are in the industry. You're very real to customers. And if I had a home that I was selling in Syracuse, I certainly use you as my agent as well. So I want to thank you again for being on the show, for sharing your knowledge to agents all over wherever they see this show. So thank you again for doing that.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you for having me. I think this is a great thing that you're doing, helping your fellow colleagues. And I appreciate you having me.
Okay, take care. This is Joe Sonona. Sonona Speaks Seminars with Coffee Talk. And my guest this week was Lawrence L.J. Papaleo from Gilboa Realty in Syracuse, New York. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.